And you see, I am always shocked by that. It spins, and then boom, we're live. And hey, we're live. What's up, everybody?
We're live, wrestling fans, and thank you for staying up a little bit late to join us for our post Survivor Series edition of the Two Bros Wrestling Show.
Woo-hoo.
Uh, Doug, I think that the all the entrances for the Undertaker event at the end are still going on, so we're sorry for cutting into that, but it,
I'm pretty sure they included everyone that the Undertaker's ever just looked at.
I was ready in case they hit my music. I was on my way, but
Right?
they must have ran out of time. Um, Folks, if you're just joining us and did watch Survivor Series, please in the comments let us know what you thought of the show. We're going to go match by match and let you know chronologically from beginning to end everything about Survivor Series. However, on the off chance that you are watching us and did not watch Survivor Series and just want to know spoiler free what you think, whether or not it's worth your time, Doug, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. What do you think that people need to see in this event?
I'm saying Survivor Series overall could have been a Raw or SmackDown episode, other than the main event, which was good. I like the main event. There were a couple of good spots in other matches throughout the night. Overall, if you have no other way to see it, I wouldn't go out of your way to see it. The thing at the end with the Undertaker was, of course, great because it's Taker, but it's kind of sad because it had to be done in an empty arena with piped-in Undertaker chants. But that alone, I think you might want to pass on it if you're a huge Undertaker fan, because it's not the way you want to see the dead man go out. What about you?
I think overall that if you have a few hours to kill, there's nothing that's going to be so offensive that it was just downright awful. For the most part, it was an inconsequential pay per view, kind of the way we predicted it was going to be. Survivor Series as a whole doesn't have a lot at stake when you have no titles really on the line or anything. But if you wanted just to hit the highlights, definitely if you're an Undertaker mark or just a mark of wrestling in general, you got to see the ending tribute, which was nicely done. We'll talk more about that. As far as the in-ring action goes, 100% agree. That main event was outstanding. Go out of your way to see it. I also would highly recommend the tag team match with the different tag champs, as well as the singles match with the women. So I'd say about half the pay-per-view is probably worth catching if you have the time. The rest, you can save yourself an hour and a half and just listen to our review.
Or watch all the entrances for the Undertaker's farewell. That's an hour and a half right there.
No one has time for that. But yeah, so it sounds like we're both kind of thumbs in the middle. There's certain things people should go out of their way to see, but overall, you don't need to watch the whole thing. And if you did watch the whole thing and disagree with us, let us know, because now we're going to start from the beginning and end. Doug, did you catch the pre-show?
I did not.
Spoilers now.
Speaking of people who didn't see the whole thing, I'm that guy.
Well, you talk about inconsequential. The pre-show really sets the tone for that. I know a lot of times we talk about the pre-show match not having any consequence and really being skippable. This year or this event was more so than normal. It was a battle royal with no stakes. So not a battle royal fan anyway, particularly when there's no stakes. Miz won. The way he was looked like he was eliminated and wasn't was actually kind of clever. So clever that they probably should have saved it for a battle royal that actually means something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Royal Rumble. So yeah, don't go out of your way to do the pre-show, but yeah, if you want to see a battle royal with everybody who wasn't on the pay-per-view, then catch the pre-show.
I think they at least played back the Miz winning the battle royal and how he won it. That's what you want to see. That little like 30-second clip of the exchange of Dominic and him, and then him coming back in it after that. So I was like, okay, I saw that, so I didn't really miss that. So
No, you didn't. That's all that there was that was of any real importance in that. We'll go to the main show. Now we start with one of the traditional Survivor Series matches, the men's SmackDown team versus the men's Raw team. Doug, that one went to Team Raw, and it was a clean sweep by Team Raw. What did you think of this match?
Well, I think that I was a little bit old and confused because it took a little nudging from you earlier in the night to actually get this set up. So apparently I missed the first two matches because I was thinking we had a start time of 8. But I guess things happened a little bit earlier because I didn't come in. I missed apparently the Raw match and the tag team match. I didn't come in until Lashley versus Sami Zayn. So So these first two matches I thought were awesome.
Well, I will say that because it is the traditional Survivor Series match, which I have never been a huge fan of, as I mentioned in our show last week, you got 10 men on each side, or 10 men total in the ring, and that's 10 separate entrances. So that, I mean, it was a night. If you love entrances, then this is the pay per view for you. By the time you get the entrances and the first match actually concluding, it was 34, 35 minutes into the pay-per-view. So that first match alone, which again, there's no real, unless you're just a solid team Raw guy or a solid team SmackDown gal, there really isn't anything at stake in these. So the action was fine. Um, my notes here, the Seth kind of sacrificed himself, which was dumb. Like he pretty much just let himself get pinned just to be a martyr, which made very little sense. Um, I think that the ending was really cool. The ending, Keith Lee got the final elimination, and by doing that, he actually caught Jey Uso jumping off the top rope onto his shoulders, caught him midair onto his shoulders, and then lifted him up into the Spirit Bomb. So the ending was really cool. But the match itself, there's no real point to go out of your way to see it. Other than that finish. And it was as we called it, Doug. We both picked that the Raw men would probably take this one, and the Raw men did. I didn't see a clean sweep happening, and it does storyline play later on though, because Jey Uso was the last guy fighting for SmackDown, and of course one guy isn't going to be able to take up on five superstars. But don't tell Roman Reigns that, because he's not going to be happy. So that part of it, I guess, storyline wise, that actually advances that story. So that's kind of cool. We'll go to the next match since you didn't see it, Doug. I would say that this is, if the main event not stepped up the way that it did, I would have called this match probably the stealer of the night.
The stealer of said show.
Yeah, on paper, it was the one I was actually kind of most looking forward to, only because these are two teams that are actual tag teams that are two of the better teams in WWE. One, in many ways, is a much younger version of the other.
Yes.
They're very similar in their styles, the way they wrestle, and their charisma and their comedy. I mean, there's so many parallels you can make between these two teams. And in some ways, it was a passing of the torch. We called this one right, too. The young guys go over. The New Day put on a heck of a show with them. Great athleticism by both teams, very fast pace, great near falls in this contest. And then at the end, as I kind of expected would happen, there was the show of respect and the hugs and the handshakes and the fist bumps, and just all four men kind of congratulating one another for a match well wrestled. And it really was a match well wrestled. But it does in some ways also, it kind of looked like a symbolic passing of the torch, which was kind of cool. So yeah, fan of tag team wrestling, and honestly, you don't see enough really good tag team wrestling in WWE. This was one of those rare instances where it happened. So catch the tag team match. New Day, though, does the job for the young up and coming Street Profits in a heck of a contest.
Cool.
So check it out, Doug.
So I'm looking at the times here of the matches. I've brought up notes here on the matches on Wikipedia, and apparently I missed most of the next match too, looking at the time that it runs. Because according to Wikipedia, it just crashed. That it's a 7 minute. It's a 7 minute 50-second match. I might have saw about 2 minutes and 50 seconds of this match.
So the match we're talking about now is the Sami Zayn contest against Bobby Lashley, Intercontinental Champion versus United States Champion. Doug, you didn't miss much in that first 5 minutes. Honestly, the most I could say about the match was it was fine. It was not the squash that we kind of thought it was. We did get the outcome correct. We thought that Sami would do the job, and he did. I will say that I've enjoyed the build-up more than I expected, only because Sami is just great on the mic. The whole idea of I am champion of all the continents and all the countries and all the continents in the world, and this other guy is only the champ of one country on one continent, and that country's kind of embarrassing right now. I mean, that whole act was just kind of the highlight of this whole build up to this. But outside of that, there really is nothing to see here other than to say it's another one that the two bros called correctly.
We've been calling them pretty good.
And we continue, Doug. The
Yep.
next contest is Asuka versus Banks. This would be the first full match that you saw, so let me have it. Pour your heart into this one.
This one actually, all I could say is the boss is indeed the boss. My little one was still up when this one came on. He was like, "Look, there's that Mandalorian girl."
That's cool.
uh, and then he didn't understand why Asuka had purple, why one of them has the blue hair and one has the pink hair, and but
It
both,
doesn't happen in nature that way.
both Taker men were happy with the outcome of this match. Although I really don't think there was anything all that special about the match. I expected maybe some shenanigans from somewhere, but I mean, I'm glad that Sasha finally went over.
Yeah.
But it's an inconsequential match. We talked about how she's that champion that can't hold on to the championship, but there really wasn't anything at stake here, and I think that's the problem with this Survivor Series. It's just like a filler. It's a filler pay per view.
Yeah,
Overall.
they really need to market it more like an all-star game, because that's what this is. It's a game where you get to see the biggest stars taking on the stars you normally don't get to see them take on, but at the end the result doesn't matter. It's almost like a bunch of exhibition matches. It is like watching the NBA all-star game or the Major League Baseball all-star game. It's like at the end somebody wins, somebody loses, but there's no stakes. It doesn't really hurt anybody's record. No one loses a title. No one
Right.
really loses a game. As far as just the in-ring action goes, these ladies have great chemistry. They always have. We knew that the match would be good because of that, and it was. Again, no stakes, but the contest they wrestled was a good contest. Hard hitting, great near falls. They actually had a lot of intensity for a non-crowd, non-title match. But usually it is Asuka in these contests through the years that have gone over on Sasha. And we talked last week in our preview, if you all caught the preview, and many of you did, by the way, the most watched show we've
Yeah.
ever had. So thank you for
Amazing.
tuning in for
Amazing
that.
sport. Thank you.
And thank you very much, folks. But yeah, we called it that it would be a match where Asuka needed the win. I'm sorry, Sasha needed the win a lot more than Asuka did. And you hit it on the nail on the head, Doug, when you said that Sasha has the reputation of winning the belt but not being able to, defend or win once she has the championship. Even if there was nothing at stake title wise, reputation wise, getting a win this soon into her reign over Asuka helps Sasha a lot more than hurts Asuka. So good call.
Absolutely.
Good call with the finish and a good match worth
Yeah.
seeing if you have the time.
Absolutely. What was next? The okay, so the women's Survivor Series match again, like you're talking about with the men's, all the entrances.
All the entrances.
Oh, you're right. They should call this the night of entrances. But yeah, I did notice in this that it seemed to me, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it seemed to me that WWE went out of their way to put Peyton Royce over tonight. I really think Peyton Royce, they went out of their way to put her over as a singles competitor tonight. Her getting a pin on Bailey, she had a great showing throughout the Survivor Series. Didn't win the Survivor Series match, and we'll get to that finish in a minute. That stupid, stupid, stupid finish. I guess Miro's a happy guy tonight. I don't know, but I think they did go out of their way to put Peyton Royce and the EST, over tonight.
First note I had was, how it was really good to see Peyton Royce get the pin on Bailey, even in a match that is inconsequential at the end of things. Just getting a visual pin on a pay per view against a many time world champion like Bailey definitely positions Peyton as someone maybe in line for a push. And even kudos to Corey Graves, who snuck in a Sean Spears reference in there. Yeah, he gave one of the things that Peyton did in the ropes a perfect 10. Yeah, he did.
I missed that.
Which I also thought that's pretty cool, and hopefully he doesn't get in trouble for that.
Oh yeah. Well, WWE owns the perfect 10. So
True. That's a different guy, right?
Yeah, that's some Spears kid over there.
The overall on this, folks, is that the match really was centered around the story of Lana, which is kind of the way we saw it coming. It's the way that it's been booked on television that it's a lot to do with Lana. I will say, Doug, this is the only match that you and I called differently, and I will say that I got it right.
You
So
did get it right.
I
Yes.
would I would take more credit other than the fact that the team I picked, half of them actually didn't end up being the team by the time the pay-per-view came around. So I'm not sure how much credit I can really give myself. That's why these things we said the traditional Survivor Series matches themselves are extremely hard to predict. Um, I didn't really see that it was going this way. I did, in my prediction, think that Lana would somehow manage to be a sole survivor. The way they came around having that happen, you want to try to describe that to the people at home, or is that
Well,
an
okay.
impossibility?
At some point, maybe maybe even earlier in the match, all four heels, decide that Lana needs to stay on the outside because she's done enough. So they put her standing on the stairs, the steel stairs, and they just have her stand there. They're like, no, you just stand there. Don't do anything. Just stand there. We got this. So all the heels throughout the night get eliminated in a series of in a series of eliminations. But there is, a beautiful Bianca Belair and what Lacey Evans, that Spanish fly.
The Spanish,
Oh my goodness, that was a beautiful spot.
that was a
Beautiful.
note of mine that I made too. That Spanish fly looked incredible, and I don't know she could have done that with just any other opponent.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah, I think,
it was
yeah,
definitely a two-woman show there.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, Peyton Roy. They went out of their way to put Peyton Royce over, and they went out of their way to really showcase Bianca Belair in this match too. But at the end, It comes down to Nia Jax, Bianca Belair, last two left, other than poor Lana standing over here on the steps. Both girls get counted out, dual count out, which of course everybody else is eliminated except for Lana. Lana gets the win. Lana is the sole survivor.
I actually had an even bigger problem, I think, with Shayna Baszler because it really came down to 3-on-1 against Belair. And,
Yeah.
and Baszler gets disqualified for something. And this is where I have a problem with these kind of a matches where you need to get a lot of eliminations in. You always they end up having to book it in a way that would never happen in a normal match. You've seen so much leeway on both WWE and AEW. Like refs don't care how long you've been outside the ring. They don't. I mean,
Mhm.
you have to go out of your way to get counted out. You really have to go out of your way to just get disqualified. That was such a quick disqualification. You just think to yourself, in a regular one-on-one match, there's no way that they would, disqualify Baszler just for that quickly. So
However, this is a shout out I've got to give to Corey Graves because later on in the title, not the title, but the main event, Corey Graves mentions that the refs, need to give a little bit of leeway on the counting out, because most of these guys are, there's particular champions, and because Corey Graves brings that back around full circle again. It's almost like he's trying to provide continuity to the show.
I appreciated that too. I caught that same thing, and I thought, I bet that is related to the quick count out and the quick
Uh-huh.
DQ we got earlier. It was a little ridiculous that all those consequences, those like coincidences happened at the end of the match. I will say that overall, I think I might, if I had to pick between the two traditional Survivor Series matches, I would give the edge to the women. And not just because of Peyton Royce and the Spanish Fly, although those are two good reasons. But
Yeah.
I do think that there was at least a story through this match, in that the buildup has really been about Lana and Nia Jax, and then the finish of this match furthers that storyline. So in that way, there was at least some storyline stuff accomplished that wasn't accomplished in the men's match.
And also kudos to the girls for actually picking a body part and working on it. There was some good psychology in there that they continued to work on Nia Jax, work on the legs,
Yeah.
take her down there, So
So yeah, definitely a better contest, I think, overall than the men's. If you
yeah.
had to rate these matches, which we're not overly big fans of, but that would take us then to the main event. Well, I guess the main event match.
yeah, yeah. I think the main event's still going on as the Undertaker continues to walk through the ring right
he,
now.
he just walked behind me. I don't know if you saw that. Actually, he's still walking behind me. It's going to take a while. You go, Tiger. All right. Drew McIntyre, man, Roman Reigns put on a contest at the end that yes, there was no stakes involved, and you thought this would be Randy Orton and that this was going to be
I
a red
did.
herring,
I did.
but they,
I'm so happy it's not Randy Orton. Yeah, I really like, but I thought Drew was just a red herring for the whole thing. I still thought Reigns would come out on top because of or Reigns. Actually, I think I said Reigns would lose because of Jimmy doing something. I
we
think.
both did. We both called that one. We both called this one wrong. So
Yeah.
if you did watch it, folks, you saw that the winner of this one ended up being Roman Reigns because of Jey Uso instead of losing because of Jey Usos. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'm like you. I'm happy it was Drew because um, nothing was at stake other than again that all star team of like the head of one promotion against the head of the other brand, I guess you'd say.
Right.
Um, but they have great chemistry, and this is a match we've not really seen. And this kind of makes me want, like, at some point, a consequential match between these two.
I want to see this again when something is actually on the line because I think the booking went a long way to protect both of these guys and make them look amazing. And these guys made each other look amazing, just time and time again. Because I was thinking so many times, this how much would an audience pop, a real live audience with all those near falls, especially as things start to pick up near the end.
You hit the key. Pick up. Like it's literally written right there in my notes because neither of these guys are Ricochet, but they're
Mhm.
like 7 feet tall men. So this starts out methodical, but it also goes to show that you don't necessarily have to do the flips and the flops to put on a exciting contest. This was a bit WWE main event style big man contest, but it wasn't boring by any means. The
Mhm.
more it went on, the more it built. The more near falls, the more back and forth they had, the outside interactions, the just the 2 3/8 counts and things. Man, by the end of it, a live crowd would have been eating this up.
And there's also so much character work, especially with Reigns, where he's like this where he's doing this psycho like talking to himself, like psyching himself up, and then talking trash to like Drew. I mean, it was some really great character work to build through there too, and Drew not talking that much, but still an equal amount of character work where you've got this like you say, these are two big beefy men. They're not jumping around and doing flips and flops and everything, but they're hitting hard, and you've got the tribal chief versus the Scottish warrior, and neither one of them is given an inch.
No, and they were dealing out finishes, countering finishes. I loved that spear that Reigns tried, and then Drew
Yeah,
countered it into the Kimura lock. I mean,
yeah,
that is a realistic looking MMA style counter. Again, you don't have to do a 450 flat splash off the top rope, and a crowd would have been going nuts at this point because at this point in the match, it really seemed like that could be maybe it. I mean, that could be the finish. They had a lot of believable near finishes and kickouts. The other spear that goes into the Claymore, but doesn't end
mhm,
up getting the pinfall. I mean, it just was well executed. And I know we've gone on here recently about Roman Reigns, but you are right with the verbalization and stuff in this match. It just further shows that he has got his get out of jail free card.
yeah.
If anyone should be happy that they finally turned Roman Reigns heel, it's probably Roman Reigns himself because he
Uh-huh.
looks like a free man all of
He
a sudden.
does. He
He
does.
owns and continues to develop and own this character. I do think, though, the finish goes to show that as great as Drew is, and he is great, and he is main event. I think this really does solidify that top of the WWE food chain right now is definitely your tribal chief.
Oh
He
yeah.
is. He is the face of the company at this point in time. So it's probably the right finish, even though you and I called it different. And Jey Uso did. He came in and he interfered, even though he had been told earlier to leave the arena. He did not. And so when he came out, I'm like, and here it goes. Doug and I are going to call this one right. He's going to, mess up and
Yep.
make Roman mad. And it went the other way. But maybe that's the right call because, Roman definitely looked strong in there, and Jay furthered their storyline and the bonding of I know you told me to leave, but I wanted to help you and make it up to you, and there's a lot of ways they can go with it, and Drew really doesn't lose anything because he looked really strong in the match.
Drew looked really strong in the match, and it takes a low blow and a super kick, intervention with a ref down to actually take Drew out. So Drew probably looks, comes out of this actually looking stronger than Reigns because Reigns gets the heel victory, you
Yeah.
know. So after being put through a table twice too, so
And I'm
you
glad you mentioned that because I failed to mention the ref bump because that really, the visual count would have been there for sure that that Drew should have won this match. So it was definitely the way a heel should win. And then you don't, again, there's no crowd, so it's not like you're necessarily sending folks home unhappy. But
Mhm.
this really wasn't the main event. That's all the action we got to call for you folks. So we got one of our predictions wrong. Well, I got one of them wrong. Doug and I both got one wrong, and I
Yeah.
got one right that he didn't. But overall, we kind of saw the way that this one was going. But the Undertaker, there's not many characters in the world of professional wrestling that you could actually book something like this and have it be your main event. But Doug, I'd actually say that Undertaker is probably one of a very short list of guys that you could probably pull enough nostalgia and enough years of goodwill and history out of that you could justifiably do what you did tonight and say that that's the main event.
Absolutely, and also bringing back the Bone Street Crew, everybody from that faction that's just not as well known as the Click, but
Yeah.
just as tight. And I don't know if they were powerful. I think at one point they were the answer to the Click backstage to kind of keep the Click in check, which I thought was interesting. That you had Nash and, and Triple H and Shawn Michaels from the Click out there with Taker too, but yeah, for casual fans of wrestling or younger fans of wrestling, they probably had no idea who some of these guys were, especially like, Taker is the man from the Bone Street Crew that rose to prominence. You don't have everybody like you could probably name off every member of the clique, but not every member of the Bone Street Crew.
And they it did take. I mean, I made a list of everyone that came out here as they came out, and it was like 20 minutes worth of intros. I mean, that's how long it took to get everybody out to the ring that wanted to celebrate Taker. And I won't go through everybody, but it's a lot of folks that you actually see from time to time. I mean, WWE plays on their history a lot, so it's not like you don't see Big Show or JBL or Shane McMahon or even guys that are only make casual appearances like HBK or Ric Flair or Kevin Nash. I mean, they do show up at big events. I guess as far as the guys that were most surprising is, like you said, the guys that don't probably get the credit, especially if with younger fans. Like the genuine surprise for me is like the Godwins. When have
Right?
the Godwins ever participated in any sort of reunion, celebration, Raw, anniversaries, all the different things they celebrate in WWE? I haven't seen the Godwins since back in the day, I don't suppose. Savio Vega, a little surprising too. I know he still wrestles some. I've seen him recently on MLW and things, but the Godwins were actually the big surprise for
Bone
me.
Street Crew, man. I figured everybody from Bone Street Crew would be there, but I think it's very cool that the Bone Street Crew all got camera time tonight. So
I did think it was interesting though that they had literally it's Shane, Big Show, JBL, Jeff Hardy, Mick Foley, The Godfather, The Godwin, Savio Vega, Rikishi, Kevin Nash, Booker T, HBK, Ric Flair, Triple H, and Kane. And then by the time Taker gets out there, like they're all gone. Like
yeah.
I kind of expected they'd all be like hugging on him or shaking his hand or
Mhm.
I mean they literally all made their introductions and came to the ring to their music and just were gone.
And it's like they cut to a commercial break, and then they cut back to Vince. And I don't, maybe I haven't seen Vince on camera in a while, but Vince just looked a little
Old.
different. I can't quite put a finger on it, but there's something that did not look right about Vince. Just
I made that note myself. I have read that Vince, one of the reasons you don't see Vince on camera very much anymore is that supposedly Vince has become a little self conscious about the way that he looks. I guess, we all get older.
sure,
We're all, heck, just during quarantine, watching this show every week, seeing the thumbnails on YouTube, I see myself getting older, right? But yeah, I think Vince limits his appearances now because he wants to be remembered as that guy from the '80s and '90s and early 2000s, and he's a what is Vince '70s? I mean mid '70s, right?
right? At least, yeah, 75 at least. I'm going to say.
I thought the same thing from compared to whenever was the last time he made an on-air appearance. I thought tonight he just seemed a little even older, a little more off, like you said. But he gave a nice tribute. He seemed genuinely touched to talk about the
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker. We said it last week, and it is so true that all this would have been a much more effective had there been a live audience there to really fully soak up the moment and the nostalgia and to really give that appreciation to Undertaker, because I think it goes without saying. A lot of those 80s wrestlers, the reason that the WWF was not my favorite and NWA was my favorite is I did not care for the gimmicks.
Right.
I mean, you got a guy here, the supernatural, like he's dead, but he's the undead. This shouldn't. There's no way in the world that 30 years later that this guy should have managed to take that and turn it into an actual believable character and the variations of the character. I personally, I think as far as gimmick wrestlers go, I don't know how you could even have the argument that there's a better gimmick in the history of professional wrestling than the Undertaker.
Mm-hmm. I have to agree. I was thinking today, is there anybody who's actually played a character for 30 years?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Kelsey Grammer probably comes close with Frazier, but I mean,
Yeah, but he was defeated at WrestleMania, so Kelsey Grammer doesn't.
and I'm thinking Hugh Jackman was Wolverine for what, almost 20, maybe 17 or something like that.
It is an impressive feat in the world of wrestling that you could get this gimmick. That if you look back at the very origins of it, you would think that there'd be no way in the world that you'd get more than a few years out of it, and you wouldn't be a main event guy. You'd be an attraction, and in a few years you'd wash out or be given a different gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And it just says a lot about the right character attached to the right person with the right book. I mean, there's so much that had to go right, but with anybody else, it may not have worked. And he made it work. It's pretty impressive. So there's no doubt in my mind that he definitely deserved this kind of farewell. The video package was well done. Vince's comments were well taken. I liked Taker's brief, but let the Undertaker rest in peace. I'm kind of surprised, and I don't know what you thought about it, Doug. I'm a little surprised that he stayed in character.
You
Um,
know what? I think they kind of telegraphed that when Kane came out in full Kane gear. It's like, okay, Taker's going to come out. Taker is, in front in a wrestling audience, he is always going to be Undertaker, but not after tonight, because he said, tonight. I forgot exactly what he said, but it's time to let the Undertaker, rest in peace. So, being Mark Calloway is now no longer the Undertaker.
and at that point, I expected that we were going to hear from Mark Calloway because he's actually broken that fourth wall down and in interviews
Yes.
uh, and so in the documentary that was very well done. But he's yet to do it in the ring. So I'm thinking, in my mind, this was goodbye to the character. The
Mm-hmm.
next time, when you actually get the real appreciation for the Undertaker, the man, Mark Calloway, and the Undertaker, Hall of Fame, WrestleMania, in front of the biggest audience that they can be allowed to have in a place that.
As it should be, because thank you takers and undertakers and a empty arena with rest in peace and thank you taker and all that being piped in.
Not the
Man,
same.
30 years. The dude, I mean, it was great, just like Drew McIntyre winning his first championship at WrestleMania this year. Great, but they deserve more, man.
No
Taker,
doubt.
definitely Taker.
The show must go on, so I understand you can't hold everything back
Sure.
for when things turn back to normal, because who knows what that normal really is going to be and when that's going to be. So I thought this was probably a good mid step of, like, it would have been better with fans, but they didn't give away the whole enchilada. There is an opportunity for a Mark Calloway to speak to his audience as a Mark Calloway and thank them for everything. And he deserves that, and the fans deserve to see that. And I think that they were able to keep that one in their pocket while still giving something pretty cool tonight at the end of the show.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's really like poetry too, because it rhymes. You have the debut of Taker at Survivor Series, and you have really the end of Taker at
Yeah.
Survivor Series. 30 years later, instead of the next year,
Yeah.
which is probably. I mean, honestly, that's probably. I'm sure Mark Calloway, if you would have asked him then, would have said, he might have 30 days of this character, this mortician character.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that we did get a holographic Paul Bearer appearance as well, which was actually kind of cool.
It was cool, but it's kind of like Undertaker summoned him.
He did. Well, he is undead and he has supernatural powers, and
Right.
I watched the documentary that they did as part of the 30 Days of the Undertaker, and the one on Paul Bearer, and they talked about the fact that they actually used the Paul Bearer character after the man who played Paul Bearer had legitimately passed away, and it was mentioned that Taker really thinks that he would have loved it. Like he was so into the character, and just the
Uh-huh.
fact that people were still talking about Paul Bearer even after Moody's death. The
Right.
Red Man, like he would just get a kick out of that. So he probably would have got a kick out of the fact that Paul Bearer made a appearance in the ring tonight with the Undertaker. He probably would have thought that was extremely cool if he was
Yep.
looking down.
And,
But yeah,
and appropriate and all in character.
yeah, it was very well done, and then still left a little bit for potential later usage. So again, folks, you don't need to see the whole thing, but if you're a taker mark or just a fan of the business over the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years at
30
this
years.
point,
Right.
watch that ending, watch that main event too, because that's hopefully a harbinger of things to come down the line when there's more on the line. But half a pay-per-view is worth your time, and the other half we just told you about.
Yeah.
Saved you some time. Saved even Doug some time from going back and watching a couple of
I
matches
think
that
we
he
spent more
missed.
time talking about Taker than the entire rest of the show.
And they really did book this show around a non-match. I mean, in fairness, their promotion was almost 90% Undertaker, and the rest of it was the best versus the best kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
on that, I guess they did deliver, and that part of it was definitely worth going out of your way to see, folks.
Absolutely. Well, fellas, ladies, I've been Doug.
I've been Kevin. Now next week we're off. We're off next week for the Thanksgiving holiday. So go celebrate responsibly and in smaller groups and pods as you can possibly get away with. Be safe and good to one another. Be thankful, and we will see you back here at our normal 8 o'clock time, Doug, in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Is there another pay per view then? It seems like these things just keep flying at me.
At that point in time, we're going to be live after the NXT Takeover War Games pay per view.
I knew there'd be a pay per view.
You can find our holiday schedule, folks, on our Facebook page, and because we
Maybe
got
I can take a
Sundays
look
off,
at it too.
and the pay-per-view schedule too, because we got some pay-per-view reviews coming up, and then some off time, of course, because of the holidays. We'll be celebrating, as hopefully you all will be also. But definitely tune into the Two Bros Wrestling Show, and we thank you for watching tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.